Council chambers to order with roll call, please.
Councilor Allegro. Here. Mayor Sakala.
Here.
Councilor Crisati.
Here.
Councilor Hall.
Here.
Councilor Mangini.
Here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
Councilor Pisner.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
Here.
Councilor Thomas.
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
And Councilor Zanoni.
Here.
11 members are present, none are absent.
I don't think that could have been any better timing, to be honest. That was amazing. All right, new business. 2A is budget adoption, introduction of the main motion. Resolved that page 14, general fund revenue summary, and page 18, summary of expenditure by function of the town budget as submitted by the town manager and the estimates for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2026 and ending June 30, 2027, including estimates of receipts and expenditures and recommendations of said town of Enfield. 4, water pollution control, social services fund, Department of Library, Insurance Fund, Informational Technology Fund, Animal Control Fund, Emergency Medical Services, and Capital Improvement Funds be accepted and approved by the Town Council of the Town of Enfield, date prepared 5/8/2026 by the Finance and Town Manager.
So moved. And I have a second.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Amendments to the town budget. Deputy Mayor Santinella?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to accept amendments 1 through 10 as provided in our packet by the town manager.
And I will second that.
Motion made and seconded to accept amendments 1 through 10 as referenced in our packet, which is the consensus amendments. So that is a motion made and seconded. So now I think discussion on the amendments. So what I would suggest is, since I know we all have probably something to say about the budget, since these are consensus amendments, I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to sort of give their comments on the budget now. So we'll kind of just go through. Councilor Zanoni, you can start.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hold on, I have a written statement this evening. Over the course of nearly the last decade, the Town Council has routinely made what I believe are short-sighted decisions regarding our town's budget. We have seen budgets that have kept taxes low at all costs, at the expense of losing dozens of teachers, at the expense of underinvesting in our critical infrastructure, and by creating burgeoning holes in our finances based on over-reliance on one-time funds for reoccurring revenues. We have also had budgets that have failed to consider the constrained finances of the community and the people that we serve, adding positions that were not grounded in long-term sustainability, resisting consolidations and efficiencies in programs and services, and raising taxes so high that residents simply cannot upkeep with the annual increase. Tonight, we consider yet another budget. This budget engages in long-term needed investments in public education here in the town of Enfield. The positions added in tonight's Board of Ed budget do not even recover the positions that existed pre-COVID. So while that number may seem large to some residents, it represents a recovery from cuts that continue to reverberate years after they were made. This budget invests in a school system that has received a mere 1.82% increase annually over the course of the last 10 years, totaling about 24% in all. That is a good investment in our community. And I have heard from parents, students, and staff across our town that the current conditions in Enfield Public Schools are untenable. It will be my privilege to support the Board of Education's portion of this budget. Regarding the town side of the budget, our town's budget has grown by nearly 38% over the course of the last 10 years, totaling an annual growth rate of 3.4%, nearly double that of our school system. A few years ago, a chairwoman of the Enfield Board of Education noted that maybe it's time for the town to start taking some zeros. While I would consider that hyperbole, I think the statement still warrants consideration. Just $500,000, totaling $1.6 million, is what it would cost to maintain our contractual obligations and keep every existing position in place in every existing department on the town side of the budget. I do not believe we are in a financial position that warrants needing to cut personnel. I do, however, believe we are in a financial position that does not warrant adding personnel. It was often noted throughout this budget cycle, especially during discussions of capital improvement, that anything we choose to defer this year will be a bigger problem to solve next year, given the growth of our deficit. In my view, that logic applies to the addition of new positions. Whatever we choose to fund this year is something we will have to fund next year. With reevaluation next budget year expected to deepen our deficit, it feels untimely and financially unwise to expand our personnel and financial obligations at this time. I had noted I would be supportive at most a 1.14 mil increase, an average cost of $230 per year for an Enfield taxpayer, representing just under a 4% tax increase. That mill rate fully funds the Board of Education's ask, balanced with reoccurring funds. It maintains our contractual obligations to the town of Enfield, preserving every existing position, and it provides staff the discretion to find efficiencies in non-personnel line items, as was practiced by prior councils. And it also utilizes our fund balance for non-reoccurring capital investments. What it does not do, unlike other proposals this evening, is fund new positions and increase departmental spending that I do not believe we can sustain in the succeeding budget year without a significant tax increase on the people of Enfield. Nor does it balance significant amounts of our budget on reoccurring expenses with one-time funds and make too deep of cuts into our critical infrastructure. Tonight, I find myself where I frequently do, in the middle. Some colleagues of mine are willing to make more investments than I am comfortable with given our fiscal situation, and some are not willing to make enough. I believe we cannot continue to cut our critical infrastructure. We cannot continue to underfund our schools, but we also must recognize that our taxes are reaching unsustainable levels. And this is not the time to make investments outside critical services. I cannot, in good faith, support a budget that raises taxes on residents in order to add positions to our town government and overly increases departmental expenditures at a time when so many individuals are already struggling. And I want to be clear about why. I do not believe this position deviates from the democratic principles to which I was elected on. There are communities far more liberal than ours that are being forced to make far deeper cuts, not because they lack the authority to raise taxes. We all have that authority, but because people can simply not afford to pay more. There is nothing progressive about regressive taxation. At the state and federal level, governments can invest in their communities without placing that burden on the backs of working-class people. They can require corporations to invest in the communities they profit from. They can make the wealthy pay their fair share. Municipalities, we don't have that luxury. We are forced to operate within a regressive tax structure that unfairly harms working-class people and seniors. That weighs on me every time I cast a vote. In closing, we are not a community flush with revenue. We are a community of working-class people, of retirees, of people simply trying to get by. While I am appreciative of the work that went into this budget, and I do believe meaningful investments and real efficiencies were found, I do not believe it sets us up for a sustainable budget next year. It is with regret that I vote against a budget that I had worked so hard on, but it is with pride that I continue to follow the principles that have guided my public service for nearly all my life, making decisions on the merit of each argument, remaining staunchly independent in my thinking, and prioritizing affordability for our working class. Tonight, I believe my votes do just that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Ungary, if you have any.
Yes, for the sake of brevity and not to be redundant with everyone else, I just want to say we've all worked very hard on this budget, and I feel like we've come up with a budget that's feasible and practical for the town and for our public schools.
Thank you very much. Councilor Thomas?
Second both Councilor Zanoni and Councilor Ongire just said, we've all worked very hard on this. Thank you to the town manager for the proposed budget. I know throughout deliberations it was hard. It was a lot of time. It was a lot of time away from our families. And we really had to think about the taxpayer and what we would do with the proposed budget and with the amended budget. And I just want to say thank you for having your faith in us. And that's all. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Councilor Pisner?
Thank you. Again, we did all work very hard on this budget. I will not be accepting it tonight for a simple reason that I do think that there were still more areas that we need to look at. Looking through this budget, we will tell you later our amendments that we are making that we actually have found some extra revenue in this budget. I echo what Councilor Zanoni said about the positions. We did not cut one position in this budget, but I too do not feel that this is the time to add more positions. As for our vehicle replacement, I think it's a big ask when you're looking at $2.5 million in 1 year to replace vehicles. I think that's a big ask on our residents. As for the BOE budget, again, we just forgave them the $6 million. And it's also my understanding that they have some reserve money to the tune of like 1.5 million. I think they should be looking at that to replenish, and their ask should be a little bit less, but we are going to discuss more of that later tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Matthews?
Thank you. I just want to make a quick statement in regards to the new positions. I believe that if we don't add those new positions this year, we will not be able to keep up with the commercial growth that we are seeing on the horizon for this town. And if we cannot keep up with the growth of this town, we will not be able to shift the tax burden eventually from the taxpayers to those corporations that should be, I think, shouldering most of that burden and give our residents some of that relief. I think that we have a great building block with this budget that will help us, especially with the plans that the town manager has for the next year to find efficiencies within all of the departments. I think this is a great start and will help us, like I said, become way more efficient. And I think that we're going to see a much more tight and succinct budget next year that the residents should be very happy with. I also want to commend the department directors. Working with them for over a decade, I know how much time and effort goes into all of the positions that they looked at, all of the equipment that they said they needed, all of the trainings that they explained to us over and over again. And I hope that they don't think that us questioning them on any of those things meant that we did not have faith in them running their departments or didn't make it look like they didn't know what they were doing. We know that you do. It is our responsibility to take a good look at those numbers and make sure that we're all making the right decisions. But I am very confident in the fact that they did not ask for wants, they asked for needs. So I thank them all for all of the hard work that they did, and I thank the town manager's office for putting everything together for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Mangini?
Thank you. I am the longest-serving member of this town council, and I proudly am going to support both the Board of Education budget and our town budget. And I have to say that this town council has worked extremely hard to do the very best we could with what was handed to us. It's a very poor economic climate out there, but we did the best we could. I do want to mention the Board of Education budget. Should that budget be touched by reduction, we will lose staff. We will lose course offerings, and we will lose the value of our children. We have phenomenal educators, and by reducing what our superintendent has put together and worked with his staff would be a tragedy. Going to the town side, I do want to thank our town manager and our staff of our department heads and our workers. This budget is only good to maintain what we currently have. We are lacking in maintenance, it's no secret, and we really need to move forward. Fortunately, we do have a plan going forward, but we must adhere to the plan to make proper repairs, maintain our properties, maintain our structure, maintain what we have, take care of. And at this juncture, I think it's extremely important also that people understand that the tax line, that's a great plan, but we do need to make necessary corrections. We had lost many of our workers, which is quite unfortunate. We're not adding per se, especially any unnecessary roles, but we have a plan to bring forward our town in a healthy, safe environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hall?
Just a logistics question to the mayor. When would you like us to run, after everybody's said their piece?
Yep.
Okay.
Then I'm going to ask any more amendments.
Okay, perfect.
And then you guys can read yours as a block.
Okay, great. So the statement I'm going to make on this budget is I think we all worked very hard. I think everybody sitting up here truly has the best interest of the town, or we wouldn't be sitting here. Budget-wise, I think we could have done a lot better. We did spend a lot of time going methodically through this budget line by line, and we have come up with more cuts on vehicles this year. We left a lot of vehicles in that are being leased, so the town is still getting new vehicles. The police department are still getting vehicles, but we did cut quite a bit of DPW requests on purchases. So we've left enough there that we think is a good amount in the leasing program for vehicles. So we did not cut all the vehicles out of this budget. We went line by line. We actually have 13 amendments that we are looking to run tonight that will be cutting additional personnel. So this does not take away any employees from the town of Enfield whatsoever, but it does reduce the additional requests for new positions. The other thing I would like to talk a little bit about is we do have a reduction in the request for the Board of Education. We are not cutting their budget. We are looking to reduce their requested increase. And here's why. I was at the legislature when we actually voted on giving the boards the ability to do carryovers. So I supported that amendment at the state. What that amendment and what that law actually does is it, instead of the board spending their funds down to zero every budget or going out and spending things that they may not need just so they don't have to turn the money over, it prevents a lot of that, what I would have called frivolous spending in the month of June. So by supporting that carryover, it allows the boards to take the money that they have left over and use it for education purposes. So they can put it back into programming for the kids. They can add whatever they feel is appropriate without spending those dollars down to zero. It's a great law. I supported both times, the initial law when it just got passed and then the increase to the 2%. I think it's a good thing to have. I think it encourages the boards to actually look at their spending and not spend at the last minute to get those dollars off their books. However, what that fund isn't, and it's not to be used for, is to hold a savings account. And in this particular case, we actually got a memo from the superintendent this evening, probably an hour ago maybe, that talks about what he would like to do with those revenue sources that are sitting in that account. So right now in that account, the board is holding $1,903,000. So that's sitting in the 2% fund right now. At the end of this fiscal year, at the end of June, the anticipated addition to that is another $1.1 million. So out of that leftover for this year, they have bills to pay back the town for insurances and things like that. So if you back out the number that they owe back to the town of Enfield, it's roughly $855,000 that has to come back to the town. That leaves $323,170 from unspent revenues this year that's going to go into that 2% account, we call it. So if you add up what they've got in there from last year and the revenue that's going to be left over from this year, your total is $1,916,000. So almost $2 million in reserves. Now, there's another account which we just passed recently at the legislature. It's called a DRIP fund. And what that account is meant to be used for are repairs to the schools. For example, a furnace goes down or the air conditioning goes down. So the state is now allocating the district's DRIP funds. Where it's a little different in Enfield is Enfield does not have a division like so many of the schools across the state have. They don't manage their own buildings, so the town does that. We do that on this side of the budget. That's unusual, but that's how it's done here. So technically, those DRIP funds really should come back to the town because we're the ones that are taking on all the repairs that need to be done in these schools. So if you add up all those numbers, they actually come to $2.1 million and 96,000. So we are suggesting a reduction in the increase that the board is requesting. And those reductions, they have in their 2% fund account. Now, the memo that we got late this afternoon from the superintendent states that he would like to take that revenue and use it for, he said he's brought it up at the school modernization, that he would like to renovate the administrative offices. He says that right in his memo here. The problem with that is it's not his decision to make. That's the residents of the town of Enfield's decision to make, whether they want to spend millions of dollars renovating the administrative offices. So I have a bunch of problems with the letter I got tonight from him. But in the end, it will be the Board of Education's decision if they want to take this 2% and renovate the superintendent's offices, or if they want to use it for what it's supposed to be used for, which is educational needs. It's right in the statute. I guess if you kind of squint your eyes a little bit, you could justify educational needs as renovating administrative offices, but not in my book. So anyway, those are funds that are meant to be used for the children, for our kids, and educational purposes. So that being said, I won't be supporting the budget as it sits tonight. The impact on the taxpayer of the town, in my opinion, is going to be too large. The problem if you look forward to next year's reval, a lot of the towns in the state have already gone through this process. And I had quite a few conversations with my fellow legislators over this session, the ones that actually had gone through their revals, and some were seeing as big of increases anywhere from 30 to 40%, which is alarming. It's like a tidal wave coming next year, and I don't think we can emphasize that enough. So it's very scary. Next year's budget's going to be it's going to be a mess. So I think we have to cut where we can now. And looking forward, if we actually expect any sort of referendums to pass, you have to be very conscientious of the mill rate that you're passing on to your residents. So you're going out with a $500 million referendum, and you're asking people to support it, but you're increasing their yearly taxes. And in my opinion, it is too high. The budget that we put together has a 0.22 mill rate increase. So basically, that's $3.85 a month. Your taxes would go up under our proposed budget that we have the amendments for. So I can live with that amount, and it accomplishes everything I think we really want to see accomplished. It doesn't hurt any of our departments. It doesn't reduce any staff, and it also, in my opinion, keeps the Board of Education whole because of the money they have in their reserve accounts. So that's all I have at this point. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councilor Crissati.
Good evening. It's been quite the budget process this year. This is no easy task to put a budget together. Been doing budgets now over the past 10 years, and every budget is different. Every cast of counselors is different, and points of view are different. But I do have to commend, number one, the town manager on his preparedness for the budget, and all of the department heads who are the experts on what their needs are in order to maintain the quality of life that goes on here in Enfield. And I think that's very important, and that's one thing that I think is missing. And so I'm going to just state the reasons why I'm going to be supportive of not only the town side of the budget, but also the Board of Ed budget. Yes, this afternoon we did receive an email from Mr. Macchio explaining his reasoning for the ask that the Republicans are going to be asking for their appropriation. And I think what really hits it is his last two paragraphs. By eliminating $1.9 million, you're going to be approximately 18 certified staff members, including library specialists, math teachers, leadership teachers, social workers, special education, TESOL, 10 non-certified teachers, including the Career Center and academic tutors, are going to be eliminated. Class sizes are going to go up. We're going to go back to the same old that we were dealing with the last 2 years. Mr. Macchio has done a fantastic job over the past 2 years of stabilizing and trying to maintain a school system that we're going to be proud of. So I am going to be against any of your education amendments. Matter of fact, I think it is disrespectful to them. Number two, This increase that we're seeing is measured and responsible given the rising costs facing every municipality. Enfield is just like every other town here in the state of Connecticut, including rising inflation, utilities, healthcare, public safety, contractual obligations, you name it. We're dealing with this. This budget protects core town services that our residents rely on every day, including the police, the fire, ambulance, public works, senior services, the recreation, roads, you name it. You want to start cutting and eliminating dollars, you're going to start eliminating services. Once again, I will continue to invest in education and students and teachers to maintain the quality of education families expect here in Enfield. The increase that we're looking at really is fiscal responsibility within the community rather than making deep cuts that are going to negatively affect the residents. We have to maintain our infrastructure, our facilities, equipment. We can't be going on a 0.2 increase or a 0% increase when our contractual obligations are $500,000 right off the bat. The town continuously now is looking at different ways of increasing revenue, how we're spending, how we're prioritizing services that are going to be a direct impact to the taxpayers. Once again, sometimes we don't have control over what the state does or what the federal government does. We always have to react at the last minute what the state gives us, what the federal government's going to give to the towns. And that's very, very difficult. No one likes tax increases. I don't like tax increases, but I do understand that the impact every dollar has on our residents. And it's our responsibility to maintain services, schools, and infrastructure that our community depends on. And can we strive to do better? Yes. It doesn't matter. Whoever's in the majority is dictating what the budget is. We try to have a bipartisan support and consistency, but it just doesn't do it. We're looking for financial stability to move this town forward instead of sitting back saying, what can we do without? And I do understand where we're coming from. I do understand that a taxpayer increase, if there was a little, but to have nothing, and then we have to increase taxes to maintain, then that's what we have to do. Once again, I am here in support of both the Board of Ed and the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Allegro?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm the newbie. This is my first budget. I came here on the town council because I believe that it is our responsibility on this council to look out for the safety and the well-being of every single one of our residents, as well as our employees here in this town. I'm looking at departments that are understaffed and overworked. Buildings and our infrastructure are in disrepair. We have equipment and vehicles that desperately need to be replaced so we can go on with the job of keeping our residents safe and healthy, and to also improve the quality of life. That was one of the things that caused me to step forward in my retirement to come on this council, because I care about every single resident in this town. And I care for the employees in this town who provide so many services and work so hard. And for that reason, I will support the Board of Ed budget and the town budget. We need to provide the well-being and the safety of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I also want to extend my thanks to all of the town staff, the department heads, the town manager, the assistant town manager, the finance department head, and everybody else for the amount of work and time that you have put into this budget and the long hours of deliberations that you've participated in with us. Your input, your service is invaluable, and it is very much appreciated. So first and foremost, thank you to all of you. I honestly have to say that Councilor Crissati pretty much went right down my list and said everything that I was going to say. And I agree with every last word that he said, so touche. But I will say this, we are in a hole for a reason. We are in a big hole because we have not been taking care of this community in many ways. And we set out to put together a plan, not just for this year, but hopefully set out a plan over a number of years that will get us back to some reasonableness in terms of the asks that will come out of this budget process. And I will say this, of all the people, our town manager, who candidly I was not sure about when he was being appointed, I have come to have an immense amount of respect for his vision, his financial acumen, his understanding of this community, and what it's going to take for us to get from point A to point B without breaking the bank. And so I am very, very proud of this first step. And I hope that as people get a chance to digest it and understand, and if you want to go back and listen to those hours and hours of budget deliberations, it lays out for everybody the fact that we are doing what we need to do in the smallest increments possible. Even though you may not like the tax increase that's coming, it is the minimum that we need to do to be able to get us going in the right direction. And so I am really proud of the work that we've done, and I will be supporting the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. So I don't normally have written statements, but I did one for tonight. So I'm going to be supporting this budget. No budget is perfect. I think everyone knows that, and nobody wants to pay more taxes. But we have made a commitment to this community. We cannot fix everything this year. We can't fix everything in 1 year. But this budget, it's a start. This budget is a step in the right direction. We worked hard on finding a balance between the need for additional funding, staff, and equipment, and not overburdening our taxpayers. We have identified additional sources of revenue, which you heard about at the deliberations, and hopefully we'll see implemented in the upcoming meetings. Just taking the Board of Education ask and our contractual obligations on the town side, we started at a 1.38 mil increase right off the bat. That is step zero. That is almost about, using round numbers, a 4% increase. That's just what the Board of Education asked and just on the town side contractual wage obligations. And we got to 1.61. That is a small increase from where our baseline was. That doesn't take into effect that baseline we started at, the increases in utilities, increased prices of materials, increase in fuel costs, and an increase in refuse disposal. We said we would fund education, and we did. This budget does that. We said we would work on a short-term and a long-term plan for our buildings and our infrastructure. This budget does that. Includes additional crucial personnel that will help maintain our new buildings as well as our older ones. We can't expect to have nice things in Enfield if we're not going to maintain them. So we have to maintain them. This budget provides for that. Our buildings and infrastructures have been neglected for far too long. This budget helps right the years upon years of underfunding and under-delivering on the vehicle replacement plan that was put in place, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, that we followed, by the way, for 1 year. We cannot expect the town to move forward in zero or close to zero increases. It just doesn't work, and we are an example of that. It shows. What that does, it places us further behind, and we are not willing to allow that to continue. If you consistently raise taxes in smaller increments, you would never see a 1.61 increase. It wouldn't happen because the work year after year after year would be done. The long-term planning would happen, and you'd follow that plan. That has not been happening, and we sit here now trying to right the ship. I will be supporting, like I said, this budget and all of the hard work that went into creating it and negotiating its final outcome. So, now that we have the first 10 amendments, what I'd like to do is have a motion. I would like to have a vote on those 10 amendments because those were sort of the consensus one, and then I'll ask for additional amendments. So I had a motion to approve the amendments, and I had a second. So I can do by hand vote. All in favor of the 10 amendments? Right? Okay. All in favor of those first 10 amendments? 8 in favor, all against? 3 against. So 8 and 3. Now, any additional amendments? Councillor Hall.
Madam Mayor, I have 13 amendments.
You want to just go through them all at once, all at a block?
So, question through you to the town clerk. Sheila, do we need to read, do you want us to read all the revenue lines, like from to, do you want all the numbers read?
I believe that you do need to read at least the
Okay.
name of all the accounts, yes.
Okay, I thought you would because it wasn't posted, so I just wanted to clarify. Okay, so we're gonna take, 3 of us are gonna take turns reading them like we used to, so. So, do you want me to go first?
It's up to you.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead. You've got to read all the vehicles.
Point of order, Madam Mayor, just for clarification, are you reading each amendment and then voting it on as a block, or are we
Nope,
voting?
I said they're gonna read their amendments, which is 13 of them, and then we'll vote on them as one block.
Thank you
We
for
just did the
clarification.
first 10.
So procedurally, I think what we wanted to do is have each amendment presented separately because there may be support for individual
Right.
amendments.
But there's-
So
right.
procedurally,
But we're not going to do that because you don't have 6 votes for any one of those amendments.
but there might be amendments that people might
There
want to
isn't.
vote on.
I'm going to tell you that right now. You
So-
have no support. You do not have 6 votes for any of these amendments, so you can read all 13 of them all together, and we're going to vote on them as a block.
So through the mayor to the town clerk, Sheila, if some of these amendments want to be voted on by somebody, by blocking them in one big voting block, they cannot vote on individual, correct?
If they are presented in a block, they cannot be voted on individually, correct?
Okay, so if they're my amendments, so if I want them done as single amendments, I am proposing them as individual amendments.
The amendments would be voted on as proposed.
Okay. Okay. So I procedurally, I want each one voted on.
Okay, point of order. Okay, so I would like to just make a comment. I would actually like to make a motion. Would like to make a motion to suspend the rules and agree that we will vote on these next 13 amendments. How many are there? 13 amendments as a block before we proceed.
Motion made.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
So
And so you can discussion.
Deputy Mayor.
I want to say this in all
Sheila
due
has a
respect. We have spent an inordinate amount of time with each other. Last Thursday, we spent 2.5 hours talking about everyone's positions and reservations about where we were with the budget. All 13 of these things came up, they were discussed, and there was no consensus for what is being proposed here. We have listened. And no matter whether it's one person additional or not, you don't have the votes to get any of this passed. And I appreciate that in the legislature, this is what goes on. We propose an amendment, we vote it down, we propose an amendment, we vote it down, and it's wasting time. And I say this respectfully, I think it's disrespectful to everybody here to take all of this time to go one by one and do this when you know that you don't have the support to do it. So I would like the council to just agree that there are people here who don't agree, but let's be respectful to one another and agree that we're going to vote on this as a block, and you can present them and we can move on. Thank you.
Councilor Hull?
So I'm proposing them as individual amendments. That's how I'm proposing them. And you can vote them down. It's your choice. You have the right to do that. But this is a budget that we worked very hard to put together. So I'm going to propose these as individual amendments and would request a vote on each individual amendment.
So Sheila, there was a motion made to suspend the rules and vote on them as a block, and was that seconded?
Yeah.
That was also seconded. So can we vote on that motion?
So I believe that we've ventured into town attorney opinion. It is my opinion that the amendments have not been made. So they have not been presented to the council in any way. They weren't part of the agenda
Correct.
packet. So I believe they would have to be voted on. They're coming from the floor, and they would have to be voted on as they are presented.
So, okay. So our procedures to add something to the agenda is that it has to come from the floor and there needs to be an 8-person vote to add something to the agenda. Is that correct?
This is an amendment, though.
This is an amendment.
This item was
Got it. It's not
on
an
the
agenda
agenda.
item,
This
it's
is an amendment.
I
Right.
understand. Okay.
So your plan is to read all of them,
One at a time.
one at a time. Everybody has said their piece on this budget. So we are going to read them and we are voting. We are not discussing each of these because you know you don't have the votes. And to be honest, I do believe that this is a complete waste of time. And to go on that, a complete waste of taxpayer time was done today. Knowing you don't have any support of this, you had department directors, you had employees, you had town managers and town staff all day working on creating this, researching this, writing it, developing it, copying it, and now distributing it. What a waste of financial resources. But go ahead, the floor is yours.
So I respectfully disagree with you on that. We're all here as individual counselors, and we all have proposals that we have the right to put forward. You may think it's a waste of time, but the taxpayers of Enfield, I'm sure, don't think it's a waste of time to find savings in their budget. So,
Okay. Amendment 11, go ahead.
do you want to start that one?
Go ahead, Matt.
We were just talking, you have a motion that you have to do away with.
Well, our motion was made to vote on them as a block.
Right.
And
Right,
we,
you never voted on.
right, because I think Sheila said that we can't.
No, she said we're in town attorney.
Yeah, there's,
So it could be a ruling of the chair to remove that, or Councilor Santinella could rescind his motion.
That's fine. We'll just remove the motion.
Well, you can't
Just-
remove the motion. I
well,
have to remove the
yeah.
motion, but.
Okay, go.
Just hold on. I will remove my motion.
I'll remove my second.
Amendment 11, go ahead.
Amendment 11, to amend the town manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on page 77 in accordance with the following schedule. Reduce transfer to capital per attached schedule to adjust transfers to library for expense reductions to the library fund. Transfer to capital. ETV vehicle for $46,000, DPW B&G grounds 2006 van for $60,000, DPW WPC 2008 car for $36,000, a DPW custodian 2008 car for $36,000, DPW WPC 2010 hybrid SUV $35,000, community development vehicle 2010 for $36,000, building department 2013 SUV $44,000, DPW B&G 2013 van for $65,000, DPW Highway 2013 pickup $92,000, DPW field lining painting robot $50,000. And that's the First Amendment.
So your amendment was made. Is there a second? Second. All right. All in favor? 3 in favor. All against? 8 against. Amendment 12. That amendment fails.
So Amendment 12, to amend the town manager's proposed 2026-27 budget as shown on page 37 in accordance with the following schedule. This is a reduction of a assistant tax collector position. So the breakdown on this goes from collectors of revenues, salaries, $283,100 to $217,100. Health/medical insurance, $86,636 to $43,895. Life insurance, $604 to $411. Social Security from $18,500 to $14,285, and Medicare from $4,327 to $3,341.
Amendment 12 made. Is there a second? Second. All right. Made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor. All against? Oh, I'm sorry. 4 in favor. Thank you, Zach. All against? Amendment 13 fails 4 to 7. I'm sorry, that was 12. Amendment 13, please.
Okay, Amendment 13, to amend the manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on pages 59 in accordance with the following schedule. Reduce 2 custodial positions, supplies and machinery. Custodial and maintenance. Salaries from $3,255,001 to $3,160,027. Health medical insurance, $1,208,982 to $1,126,882. Social Security, FICA, from $225,778 to $219,890. Medicare from $52,809 to $51,433. Office supplies from $500 to none. Machinery, $44,250 to zero.
Amendment 13 made and seconded. All in favor? 4 in favor, all against? Amendment 13 fails, 4 to 7. Go ahead on Amendment 14, please.
To amend the town manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on page 54. Sorry, my machine wasn't on. In accordance with the following schedule, DPW Administrator $60,000 from other professional services. Under Public Works Administration, other professional services from $84,800 to $24,800.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for Amendment 14. All in favor? I'm sorry, 3 in favor, all against? 8 against, 3, 8, it fails. Go ahead on Amendment 15, please.
Amendment 15, to amend the town manager's 2026-27 budget as shown on page 57 in accordance with the following schedule. Reduce B&G, other purchased services and supplies / materials. Building and grounds maintenance, other purchased services, $25,000 to $2,360. Supplies and materials from $25,000 to $0.
Second.
Amendment 15 made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor, all against? 8 against, it fails. Go ahead on Amendment 16.
To amend the manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on page 65 in accordance with the following schedules, reduce refuge and collection and disposal, $39,000. Refuge collection and disposal, other professional services, from $43,000 to $4,000.
Second.
All right. Amendment 16 made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor, all against? 8 against. Motion fails. Amendment 17, go ahead.
To amend the manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on page 73 in accordance with the following schedules, reduce boards and commissions, prison liaison committee, $500. Boards and commissions, prison / liaison committee from $500 to $0.
Amendment 17 made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor, all against? 8 against? 17 fails. Go ahead on 18. And just for clarification, you have 2 18s on here. So this one we're going to call 18 and then, oh, go ahead, Matt.
Well, just going to say that if this doesn't pass, this amendment, then the next amendment, which would be 19,
Yeah.
would be irrelevant. I mean,
Irrelevant?
because there wasn't any changes, because the
So
next
18
one,
can go together, then we can go to 19? Or no?
No, what I'm saying is what would be 19, because you didn't make any changes at that point on the amendments.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have to
They wouldn't
act
have
on
to
that
go.
one, because there's no changes based upon not approving any of the first 18.
Okay, but they'd still have to start with 19, right?
Yeah.
So
the
that
next-
second 18 is going to be 19 and
Yeah,
then so
the
on and so
next-
forth.
The
Yep.
next amendment after this one will be 19.
Yep.
But they would most likely go, depending on what happens with this one.
Yep,
The
move
next
on
one
to
could
20.
be the one to amend the total BOE appropriation.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead on Amendment 18.
So To amend the town I'm reading, right? Okay. To amend the town manager's proposed 2026-27 budget as shown on page 77 in accordance with the following schedule. Adjust transfer to library for expense reduction in the library fund. Non-departmental charges transfer out and contingency transfer to the library, $60,380.
Amendment made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor, all against? 8 against. So motion 18 fails, which means you can skip 19 since there was no decrease.
No, the next one, the next one's,
The
Yeah.
second 18
yeah, we're
Second
skipping
18.
yeah.
is the new 19.
Which I'm calling the 19, yes. So they're going to,
19 here
This
is
one,
correct.
Even though it's.
right. So what do you want me to call it?
19.
19.
Yeah, this will be 19.
Okay.
This is the right 19.
All right.
yes.
Then
19 is 19.
we're gonna keep it 19 then. That's what I was
So
asking.
we're skipping this?
Yeah, you're skipping this one. and
Okay.
reading
Amendment
this
number 19.
Okay.
To amend the manager's proposed 26-27 appropriation for the town as shown on page 18 by decreasing total schools budget from 83,578. What?
83 million.
I mean, sorry, 83,578,112 to 81,377,061.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor, all against? 8 against. Amendment 19 fails, 8 to 3. Go ahead with Amendment
Hold
20.
on. So 20 is going to be the adjustment to that since none of the previous
Yep.
ones were
We can
adjusted.
skip
So
that.
you would skip that and go to
Go
number
to
21
21.
on the list.
All right,
which is
thank you.
really not
Amendment 21.
To amend the manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on pages 15 and 16 in accordance with the following schedule, adjust revenue items. The general fund revenue, taxes real estate, $4,157,740. Taxes personal property, $394,250. Prior year levy, $300,000. Building and mechanical, $500,000. Interest on investments, $500,000.
Second.
Amendment 21 made and seconded. All in favor? 3 in favor, all against? 8 against. Amendment 21 fails. Go ahead with 22.
So again, since you didn't make any changes there, you'd go to
All right,
what's number
skipping 22. Perfect, moving along. Amendment 23, amendments to the Water Pollution Control
To
Fund.
amend the manager's proposed 26-27 budget as shown on 83 in accordance with the following schedule: reduce WPC signage, non-departmental transfers out and contingency, transfers to capital, 389,000 to 954,000.
Second.
Yeah, did you say 989 to 954?
989 to 954.
Okay. So that motion was made, and was there a
Second.
second? Motion made and seconded, all in favor? 4 in favor, all against? 7 against. That fails.
And the last one, because you didn't approve the transfer, so this one would be irrelevant as well.
24, we can skip. Okay, down to 25. Thank you, Matt.
Don't you have to read that one? That's done?
because the other
Okay.
ones didn't get passed, so we don't do those.
Are you going forward on Amendment 25?
See, she's asking you to read 25.
So,
Oh. I thought you said 20. Okay. All right. They're the same thing. Okay, so we're skipping 24 and 25. Thank you. All right, so now we have to vote on the resolution as amended by amendments 1 through 10. Correct? All right. There shouldn't be any other discussion. I feel like we've all said our piece, right? For most of the rest of the night? Great. Roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
Yes.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Counselor Zanoni.
Against.
7 in favor, 4 against.
Item 2A2, adoption of the capital improvement plan. Resolved that the Town Council of the Town of Enfield hereby finds and determines that each capital project for the 26-27 fiscal year indicated as a series or as a specific capital expenditure in the capital improvement annual budget shall constitute a single appropriation fund for said series or expenditures prepared on 5/8/2026 by the Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
And a second?
Motion made and seconded. I know we've talked about capital improvements, so roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Counselor Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
And Counselor Zanoni.
4.
8 in favor, 3 against.
2A3, adoption re the LoCIP. And resolved that the Town Council for the Town of Enfield does hereby appropriate LoCIP grant funds in the amount of $440,831 for the following purpose in accordance with the 26-27 annual operating budget and capital budget. Roads 2021 paving projects in the amount of $440,831. Date prepared 5/8/2026 by Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. I assume no discussion, so roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
4.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
4.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
4.
And Counselor Zanoni.
4.
11 members in favor, none against.
Thank you. 2A4, adoption re-education block grant. Resolved that the town schools budget adopted by the town council in the amount of $83,578,112 included the anticipated revenue of $28,380,144 from the education block cost sharing grant and the anticipated revenue of $1,192,946 from the supplemental education aid block, or education aid grant. Date prepared 5/8/2026 by the Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Discussion on this one? Deputy Mayor?
Yep. I just would like to pause here for a minute and go back to some of the amendments that were proposed earlier. We have worked hard at the state to send more money to cities and towns for education. And we were able to do that this year. And this group ran on one promise, that we were going to continue to fund education and that the war on our kids' education was going to end. So for tonight to get to this point, where there's finally some extra money coming from the state of Connecticut to go to educating our kids and to go to our schools, to have our Republican colleagues look not to just take back what was given, but to take back more than that, is just outrageous. And every parent, every grandparent, everybody who cares about our kids and the education that takes place in this town needs to pay attention to this moment right now, because budgets tell you what your priorities are. They tell you where your heart is. This speaks volumes as to how we got here. And then as part of the excuse, suddenly we're concerned about the school modernization program and the referendum, and if taxes go up too much, that's going to fail. And we really want that to pass. No, they don't. They are doing everything that they can to undermine years of work that they started. Posting that we're trying to sneak through a $500 million project without telling anybody. We've been having school modernization meetings for years. Writing that this is a ruse, that we're somehow lying to people. It is ridiculous. We cannot take out our disagreements with one another on our kids. And that's what they've done tonight. And I wasn't going to let this moment pass without just calling that to everybody's attention. And honestly, the ideas behind what's going to happen with the monies that's left in the residual, we're not redoing the superintendent's office. That's not true either. That's not what this note says. Part of what's going to be done is, if you know from listening to all the modernization committee meetings, Enfield Street School potentially will become the new central office. And part of this is going to save money in every year's budget so that we don't have to go to a referendum to have that work done. That's what this note says. Not that we're redoing the superintendent's office for $855,177. They are okay with cutting 10 more staff, 18 more certified staff members, as Councilor Crisati said. That's just fine. That's what happens when you cut $1.9 million out of the budget that was presented. There's no extra money. The superintendent laid it all out as clear as day. And members of the community came here to say how fantastic that budget was. There was nothing missing in that budget. And now tonight, there's slush funds? Not true. So I just wanted to point that out before we go ahead and vote on this.
Thank you. Councilor Pisner?
So I'm going to take offense because I am a grandmother. And I am not against education, and I am sick and tired of being told that I am. But I don't equate money with education.
Don't shout.
Well, he just did.
You're shouting in my ears. Stop.
First of all, where have I ever said I was against the school modernization? John, I have sat here on this dais and I have said I am for it. So to say that is a downright lie, because I have never said I was against it. So you show me where I said that. And the only money that we were looking at tonight was, yes, the 2% reserve and the leftover. Everybody forgets that we forgave them a huge amount of money that we didn't make. We didn't make that whole. They made that whole. And I'm sick of being reminded that we hate all our kids, because nothing is farther than the truth. And you know that. The DRIP fund is to take care of buildings. We take care of the buildings, the town. We just came from a DPW meeting where an air conditioner has to be fixed. That $250,000 can help us with that. Again.
Okay, all three? All right, go ahead.
I just want to say,
Councilor
I've
Ongare.
never spoke against the modernization plan. I think it's great. I've talked it up to try to get people to support it. So to be accused that I've done everything to help it not move forward, it's a false thing to say. I support education, our teachers. I always have.
Thank you. Councilor Hall?
So I'm not going to get wound up about hyperbolic statements saying that we don't care about children. Unlike Deputy Mayor, I have children in the system. All my kids went through the system. So to imply that this side doesn't care about schools is laughable. The superintendent's memo to us late this evening, I will read where he says, these are his words, I'm reading from the memo. I have stated my intent to raise the non-lapsing account balance to extend that will not require an additional referendum. That is incorrect. You cannot decide to renovate schools without it coming to the council for a vote. It's got to come before the council, and the council pushes referendums for construction on buildings to the voter. That's how the charter works. So to say that all these, and Deputy Mayor referenced like a whole laundry list of stuff that will be cut if we take their reserve account towards our contribution as the town. This council does not decide how the money is spent on the Board of Ed. All we decide are the numbers that are given to the Board of Ed. If the Board of Ed decides that renovating Enfield Street is more important than the list of all these things that the superintendent provided, that will be their decision. That will not be the council's decision. That will be the Board of Ed's decision on what they decide to do with that reserve account. So, you know, it's easy to point fingers, but that 1.19 million that came from the state that the deputy mayor referenced, actually in your budget, you're taking it out of the town contribution to the board. So that's in your budget. So also seeing that we're going down this road, next year, the Board of Ed right across the board is going to receive an increase in their ECS funding to the tune of another $1 million. So that's coming not in this budget, in the following year's budget. So you can be as hyperbolic in your statements and get on your soapbox and tell us what bad people we are. All of us here have children in the school system, but it honestly couldn't be further from the truth. So that being said, I'm done, and I'm glad this process is over. I do want to add one more thing. To thank the staff for all the hard work they put in on the budget. Your patience and your hard work is truly appreciated, and I really do. I thank you all.
Thank you, Carol. Go ahead, Councilor Zanoni.
So I had referenced this in my initial statement tonight, and the premise of my concern here is we had a big conversation about how the Board of Education was allocating COVID dollars and using one-time revenues for reoccurring expenses. Like most of us agreed that that was not responsible. It was not responsible. And it's my understanding that my Republican colleagues recognize that next year we're going to have a pretty tough reassessment, pretty tough with a bigger deficit. So we're going to use over $1 million of one-time revenues to cover reoccurring operating expenses. That doesn't make sense. And I could see if you put forward an argument that says, you know, maybe we don't need the new positions. I respectfully, on principle, disagree with that. But the money that you're proposing to take out is well exceeding the positions that they're adding. It is limiting their ability to fund their budget next year. So it's just creating a bigger hole. And we all had this conversation. Mayor Nelson had this conversation. I heard it from my Republican colleagues on the Board of Education. We should not use one-time revenues for reoccurring expenses. So I don't know why the proposal you're putting forward is suddenly okay, because that's what it's doing, and that's what the superintendent was saying. I don't care if the superintendent takes all that and puts it towards books, but you know what? That money, he can't count on it next year, and he's not going to count on it the year after. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if we were on a fiscal cliff and we had absolutely no other choice, I think that's a fair argument. But with all due respect, we cannot sustain this town balancing one-time revenues for reoccurring expenses, and that is the path that this would be going down, which is why the superintendent said that he would cut positions, because he knows he's not going to go down that road either, and I give him credit for that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Last thing that we'll say about this is that, people wanted a long-term plan, people wanted a short-term 5-year, 10-year plan, and Superintendent Macchio indicating that he's going to use some of these DRIP funds to start that fund in order to renovate buildings so we don't have to go out to a referendum, is the long-term plan. And I give him a lot of credit for that. So roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Counselor Zanoni.
4.
That's 8 in favor, 3 against.
Thank you. 2A5, adoption of the resolution setting the tax rate. Resolved that the tax rate of 33.11 mils be set on the real estate and business personal property grand list October 1, 2025 for the town of Enfield, and shall be payable in 2 semi-annual installments, July 1, 2026 and January 1, 2027. And be it further resolved that the tax rate of 29.21 mils be set on the motor vehicle grand list of October 1, 2025, and shall be paid in full on July 1, 2026. And be it further resolved that, however, the real estate and personal property taxes amounting of $100 or less shall be paid in full on July 1, 2026. And be it further resolved that any motor vehicle, real estate, and business personal property taxes in the amount of $5 or less shall be waived pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 12-144C. Date prepared 5/8/2026, prepared by Finance and Town Manager.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Roll call, please.
Counselor Allegro.
4.
Mayor Sakala.
4.
Counselor Crisati.
4.
Counselor Hall.
Against.
Counselor Mangini.
4.
Counselor Matthews.
4.
Counselor Pisner.
Against.
Deputy Mayor Santinella.
4.
Counselor Thomas.
4.
Counselor Ungary.
Against.
Counselor Zanoni.
Against.
7 in favor, 4 against.
Thank you. I know that we have had a long couple of weeks, so I hope everyone goes home and gets some rest. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? I'm going to assume everyone's raising their hand. 11 in favor, none against. We are adjourned.